Hi, Annie here. Thank you for tuning in to the Lovage Somatics page on my YouTube channel. And just thank you so much for your interest around relational liberation, sexual liberation, and empowerment. So I am sharing today because I want to create more of a foundation and relationship here on why I do this work and why it's important to do this work. So, not only for our own personal well-being, empowerment, have fulfillment in our relationships, we must know our body to some degree, have a relationship with our body to some degree, which of course looks different for each of us, to be able to have fulfillment. Even if we're asexual or that's not like really our thing, or that's not really our passion and what turns us on. Having fulfillment in sensuality, sensual meaning of the senses, relating to the senses, the pleasures of getting to be in a body. And as I mentioned in my personal intro video, I manage a lot of pain in my body. I have chronic back pain. I attribute it to having an extra vertebrae. I don't know how much it could be coming from something else, but it comes from that area of my body. And so I understand, whether it's emotional or physical, that we can have a lot of challenges in feeling good in our body. And so that's why my path has unfolded so that I'm doing this somatic therapy work. Yeah. So a little bit more about my background. My degree, my 4-year bachelor's degree, is a Bachelor of Science in Ecology. The label is actually biology, environmental biology with a focus in education. So the focus in education, there was a couple years where I took a lot of classes in basically how to bridge the scientific world and the layman world. So when you go to a natural park and you see like the billboards around the species you might encounter there, or the importance of protecting your waterways, a field guide, a park ranger, kind of gearing up for that sort of work. And when I graduated college, I was not about to do work like that, because my understanding was that we are factioned off in our society around our connections are fractured. So, okay, there's the natural environment, and then there's the human environment. There's nature stuff, and then there's our stuff. In the US, where I'm from at least, my understanding is we are nature. And there is a climate emergency happening now, but there's nothing wrong with the environment. It's our relationship with it, her, them, the world, earth, that part of ourself. So reconnecting with the natural parts of ourselves as animals, remembering that we are inseparable from Mother Earth, actually, even if you're living in a city. Ants live in anthills, knowing that we are an extension of her, of Earth. If it's too woo-woo that I say her for earth, or you don't like that, just replace it with it or the earth or whatever. Um, so please just take what you want from this and don't take what you don't want. It doesn't have to be an all or nothing thing. And that's a part of this work too, is uh, taking apart, teasing apart gently with compassion, this binary thinking that we have been exposed to in the dominant Western culture of the US. Um, yeah. So ecology is all about relationships. It's not like, okay, we're just going to focus on frogs, or we're just going to focus on these native plants. It's everything, and it's constantly changing. Um, and, you know, the frog doesn't exist without its food, without the water, without everything. It's all relationship. And part of Eurocentric thinking is very object, self and object. Here's me and here's this phone. Here's me and here's this chair. And there's those books. What is my relationship with this? With this phone? I have to have mindfulness with this phone because we live in a culture that lacks a culture with phones. Like, I look around and see people on dates and they're just looking at their phones. Um, you know, so having mindfulness around my health with my eyes, how much I'm using a screen. It's a relationship with the people in my lives. People aren't there to fill boxes to check mark off on how dateable they are. They're people who are complex, and it's about how we're relating, not the check mark boxes. Right? For some people, it is about the check mark boxes, but what's your relationship with those check mark boxes? Uh, is that what you've been socialized around? Is that like, are those non-negotiables for your personal boundaries? Totally awesome to have that clarity. Yeah, so it's all about relationships, whether we're relating with a lover, a friend, someone who might be somewhere in between, a lifelong partner, our parents, friends, kids, and our natural surroundings. How we relate has a ripple effect on all of our relations. And I am so freedom oriented while equally I'm interested in connection. All of my partnerships are really long-term partnerships. Um, years, years and years. I have, just a lot of gratitude for my relationships. But when we start to orient around getting pleasure from our bodies, from our surroundings directly, gardening, swimming, sex, uh, just being in our bodies, simple things, being in good company. This is radical around the exploitative capitalistic culture that we're in. So if you feel really good about your body, you don't need to go buy that product to make it different. You don't need to have that surgery to go make it different. And I don't mean to disrespect anybody who feels like those things would really make them feel better. Great. You know, like, I'm wearing this thing because it makes me feel better. I need to be wearing this? I wear makeup sometimes. Jewelry, adornments are fine. And we adorn ourselves. We are unique in that way, in the animal kingdom. And no judgment around that. Like, let's play. Let's play, right? Let's play. But when we are sold a message that we have to buy our worthiness, that is abuse. And we live in a culture where that is so ingrained and normalized, we don't even think about it or know about it necessarily unless we go out of our way. And many of us don't necessarily have the privilege to go out of our way because we're just trying to survive. I understand that. So when we can simplify and get our needs met just by taking pleasure in being able to self-pleasure or masturbate, if we're able to consensually get our needs met with physical touch with another person, with going and digging our toes in the sand, with planting a garden and growing our own herbs or food, anything, those basic sensual needs and fulfillments are radically deconstructive to our exploitative system, which is exactly why it's not normal. That's like the hippie thing to do, or that's the, I don't know why it's not or normal, but you can't sell people stuff if they are able to get their needs met directly in their community, basically. So that's a huge reason why I do the work that I do. I really want to empower people to be able to have fulfillment and know that it can be accessible in a moment, like, and that's okay to really feel good about being in our bodies. It's such a miraculous privilege to be born in this time and to be able to be in a body where we can feel so much. And if all of that feeling is hurting, if there's trauma or if there's huge challenge, then you deserve to feel support in processing that. You don't have to do that alone. And you deserve to have support from a practitioner who isn't pathologizing you, and to know that whatever's happening is okay and normal, and that maybe you're having a response to something, and this challenge is giving you some wise information. Maybe that situation's not okay. Maybe there's a lot going on in the world and your body's responding in a healthy way. Maybe you don't have a disorder. Once again, I don't mean to disrespect anybody who has a disorder or a label, a diagnosis that is helpful for them to be aware of. I have anxiety. I manage anxiety. I manage a lot of back pain. And I feel like my anxiety is a healthy response to this environment that I'm in, where it's very difficult to just be an animal and a person. Like being a wild animal person sometimes is a little difficult in this day and age. And so I find community in radical spaces in the Bay Area of California, and so I'm very grateful. But just to really help normalize and be empathetic to, whoever is experiencing challenge out there, and really encourage you to reach out and get help, and know that you don't have to be alone in that. But this is a very personal share. My background in ecology, I spent years working on regenerative farms and studying herbalism, permaculture. I've studied with Starhawk and others. I'm very grateful for my local teacher in Santa Cruz, Ken Foster, and very grateful to have lived on land for 7 years where I was able to practice permaculture and living communally, really practicing boundaries and pushing and making boundaries in a healthy way. So Yeah, for all those that might have a reaction around, oh, this is so radical because what's wrong with capitalism? It's just an economic structure. Any economic or political structure can be corrupted. We've never known, to my understanding, once again, I am not a politician, like I do not claim to be any expert in this, but we haven't had real like communism. Like there's been corruption within communism, and that's how we've been exposed to communism is corrupt. Through a corruption, we were told through a different a corrupt government about other people's corruption. Um, so yeah, socialism can be corrupt, democracy can be corrupt, anything can be corrupted, and any an exchange system, barter, trade, capitalism, like whatever the exchange system can be manipulated positively or negatively too. Capitalism isn't an inherently anything. Um, However, it's gotten a little out of whack so that our values are tweaked. Like, why are people suffering in foundational ways when other people have more than they could ever use? Like, we have evolved past this, and we have the technology actually right now to help everybody. Like, there's a lot of unnecessary suffering, and suffering is a part of life, right? It's natural. But we can definitely continue to grow with each other and share our knowledge and resources and help mitigate harm. Harm and conflict are going to happen. And we can also help each other learn, so we can also help mitigate unnecessary harm. So that's a little bit more about my background, very much personal share, and in a way not personal as well. We share these societal structures. We share the environment. We are caretakers of the earth, and I feel like a part of us being able to feel good in our bodies is rejecting the cultural nihilism that we've been subjected to around the environment. I went to school to study and science around the environment. I spent years and years working physical labor on farms at minimum wage, regenerative farming, permaculture, biodynamics. The people doing that kind of science and that kind of farming cannot do this alone. And buying organic food, one, isn't even accessible for a lot of people. I understand there's a lot of like stuff that has to do classism, very much a part of this. That's why I'm mentioning the untethered capitalism as a core piece of this. And we all, it's all hands on deck. We all can help empower each other, and we all deserve to respect this, like to be in a respectful relationship with this paradise we get to live within. Earth is a beautiful, beautiful paradise that we are just, it's just like, wow, amazing. Like, we get to be here. Like, let's work together to honor this. Like, 7 generations down the line, let's make sure that they have this paradise to be in. Right? So since I'm sharing about my background with the earth connection, I'll say one more thing around that. When I was in school for ecology, I remember like one of the many light bulbs going off around how we've been taught oh, just save the planet, recycle. And one, uh, it's a very false message. You are not responsible for saving the earth. That's a huge, overwhelming task to be given, right? The earth um, is a resilient sphere of life. There are many other species that are going extinct now because of our choices as a species. I do think it's our responsibility to think of ourselves in a more connected way. What is our connection with the earth? How do we want to be in relationship to the places we're in? Do we want to be in relationship? And if not, why not? I mean, once again, to have fulfillment, to be able to have that like liberation from your direct surroundings, from your sensual experience, is a birthright. And it is the resilience that prevents like from around mental health issues, and it is that resilience that supports us being able to be responsive to our immediate surroundings, responsive to an emergency. And this is like a global emergency. So being aware of that, being told reduce, reuse, recycle, save the earth, that's like a really overwhelming message, because no one person could possibly do that. So the message is, you do your part, and it's a practice like meditation. You don't just meditate once and then you're good. Like, we have to keep doing mindfulness exercises. We have to keep going to the gym, whatever it is. What is your relationship? How do you want to be in relationship to the earth? And if you like, just being inquisitive about that, there's a lot of grief when we start to look at this. There's a lot of grief and fear and anger, and we have not been socialized or taught. Most of us have not necessarily been taught how to be in right relationship with those emotions. So when we start to look at this, it can be very overwhelming. And so having empathy for yourself and compassion, of course it's overwhelming. And how do we make more room in our emotional bodies, in our communities, with our friends and lovers, partners, for those conversations? When we make room for more grief, we're also making room for more joy, because it's all happening in this vessel. We can't self-select numbing feelings, right? So that's why, like, a lot of antidepressants cause some people issues, because you're like flatline in the middle, right? Well, okay, I'm not feeling that anymore, but I'm also feeling like I can't access the ecstasy part as much. So more on natural medicines later with the psychedelics, because that is overturning like our mental health field right now. So I think I'm gonna end there. Thank you so much. I hope you feel empowered from this share. Please reach out to me. Check out my website. If you want to have a relationship with your body that's different, if you have goals in relationship that you would like support around, and I hope you have a beautiful day, and I hope you know that you are worth it. Whatever it is, you're worth it. And this is your life. And you deserve to feel. And you deserve to feel fulfilled, um, you know, at least some of the time. Like, I mean, and continue to cultivate this. So um, thank you so much for taking this time with me here, and take care.